Oh, if you're criticizing us, that means you hate us and you want us to go away. No, we don't. Anybody with half a brain cell in their head does not want to see AEW go away. As a matter of fact, we want the exact opposite, which is the reason why we are posting this critiques, hopefully helping them out. If we're wrong, we're wrong. If we're right, maybe it'll help. At least listen to it and give it some credence before you dismiss it as plain hate. That is the problem here. They have been told that anybody that has anything remotely negative to say about this organization absolutely hates us.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I got two very special guests with me today. If you guys haven't heard, make sure you guys go check out Huge Pop Radio. I'm here with none other than legendary referee Jimmy Korderas and Donnie DaSilva, who we're going to get to know a little bit better today. But what's going on, guys? Donnie's not even looking at the camera. What are we doing?
Donnie's multitasking.
You so want to be here right now.
I'm multitasking like a sumbit. No, thanks for having us, man. It's always fun to catch up with you. Jimmy and I have been doing Huge Pop together now for a minute, like a year and a half, I think.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
And but I mean, we've been pals for decades at this point, so it's a lot of fun to do this with Jim every week. And he's such a smart mind in the wrestling business, and I love picking his brain and running stuff by him. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Where can people listen to Huge Pop before we get started with everything else?
The easiest way is always right on our website, hugepopradio.com. There's a whole bunch of other affiliates that carry us, but we're also on every single podcast provider. So wherever you get your podcasts, Amazon, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you go, we're there. You just look up Huge Pop, you'll find us. There we are. This week's episode will have Raven, but every single week we have another killer episode with a star from the world of pro wrestling.
Yeah, it's an unlimited number of guests that you guys have week to week. Great conversations, and it's a different insight than, say, a lot of other wrestling podcasts, because you guys both have so much history in wrestling, like from the inside. So the conversations are different, right? Like you guys, Jimmy with his wealth of history and knowledge in the business. That was something from before the show. And then Donnie, obviously with all your experience working with wrestlers and promotions and booking talent and stuff throughout the years, like you guys come from a different perspective than, say, someone like me who's a fan outside of that gives you that perspective. Donnie, for those that don't know, like, what is your history in professional wrestling?
So I started off as a fan that got into the broadcasting side of things back when I was still a teenager, and then I had the opportunity to go and train and learn how to learn how this business worked. I did everything from bumping and, running the ropes and doing all that stuff to realizing, oh, that part hurts. I don't like that so much.
Yeah.
And then I did every other job imaginable. Learned how to do ring announcing, commentary, learned how to put the rings up, learned how to referee, learned how to book, learned how to produce, learned how to put together matches, how to agent. I've done every job imaginable. I'm still very much involved to this day with Superkicked, one of the top independent companies in Canada. It was fun. Actually, at last week's show for Superkicked, Eric Young was there, TNA legend. And we were sitting there reminiscing. I've known him 30 years and I was there when he took his very first bumps. And now this guy's carved out an unbelievable career for him, financially stable forever. And it's so great to see him having had so much success. But yeah, I mean, all that stuff that I've done is like, a little tip of the iceberg stuff. Jim is the one that went out and lived it for 3 decades.
Yeah.
He was on the road, getting ribbed by the Undertaker and, and doing all that stuff on a regular basis. So,
which is an honor. Actually, what people don't understand, if people rib you, that means they have accepted you. For the most part, at least the non-harmful ones. If they get a little spicy, that means maybe you tick somebody off. That's all.
Yeah, and they trust you enough that they're like, oh, he'll be okay with it. You know, you can't do that just to anybody without some backlash.
Yeah. Plus, I ain't retaliating against a dead man. You know that.
Yeah,
that ain't happening.
No, that's a losing effort.
Yeah. One quick last huge pop question. I want to ask some questions to you, Jim, about your career. But do you, like, say if someone's going to tune in for the first time and they're going to, you know, scour through your interview list, is there one interview that you're very proud of, Jim? And then is there one interview you're very proud of, Donnie? We'll start with you, Jim. Is there an interview that you're like, go check out this one? I really enjoyed that conversation.
You know what?
It's hard to choose. I know.
It is hard to choose because a lot of the guys that I've had a past with. So it's very difficult to choose, but you know what? The very first one we did, maybe with Mark Henry. I mean, they say there's no crying in wrestling, but he had me, and actually we had each other kind of like wiping our eyes a little bit. So you know, it got emotional, and that still stands out to me this day.
That was powerful. That was a really powerful one. I mean, Mark started crying and talked about how Jimmy Korderas literally saved his life. And when he said that, he said literally saved his life, but I think what he meant to say was saved the course of my life, as opposed to I would have been dead. But Jim, in a manner of speaking, saved Mark Henry's career, because a fan ran into the ring and was attacking the boys, and Mark wanted to just follow his instincts and run across the ring and kick this guy's head off like a football on a 50-yard field goal attempt. And referees in that situation, Justin, in case you're not sure, they're trained to go after the fan, okay? Like neutralize the problem. What Jim did in that situation was he went after Mark, which is not an easy thing to do because Mark is built like a Volkswagen. So Jim did his best to wrap up Mark and just be like, calm down, big guy. And Mark admits it. Like, if Jim hadn't stopped him, he would have gone to jail. His career would have been over. His life would have been over. And it would have been a very different future for the world's strongest man.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. In terms of interviews that we've done that I think stand out, it's so hard because and I'm not saying this to sound cocky or arrogant, we don't have any bad interviews. Like, we really don't. There's even been times, I'm not going to name names, where Jim and I have got into the interview and I said, I don't know what this one's going to be like.
Then after the interview,
I know that feeling. Yeah.
And then after the interview was, I didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like, it blew us away. Some recent ones that I really loved, Jade Cargill. I mean, I was terrified, Justin, from doing some research that she was going to show up and just be in character.
Yeah.
And she was so sweet, so affable, so authentic, so real. It was hard not to just fall in love with her. Lash Legend was another one. She was an absolute incredible professional. She tolerated the fact that when we did the interview, I was on vacation in Cuba and lost power. And so like my Wi-Fi went down, my power went down, and Lash is being super dope and just chill and putting up with all the nonsense. And she's like, you're good. Don't worry about it. Just a total professional. But yeah, man, there's been a lot of really good ones. I mean, the interview that we're posting this week with Raven is absolute money. He's a fantastic talker.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you know what? It's one of those things where it's like spin, like the wheel on Price is Right. Just spin the wheel. Whichever interview comes up, you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah. I honestly would have a hard time answering that question myself. So I know I'll put you guys on the spot because it's tough. And it is true. Like, there is this like fine, like this worry before you start an interview too. Every once in a while, you're like, well, are they, like, I prepared questions, but like, are they coming on here in character? Because that totally scraps the whole thing, like then I got to pivot the entire interview if they're coming in there in character. Let me ask you this, Jim. Obviously, like, you started rapping all the way back. Was it 1987, 1986?
87 is when I started, or early 87 even. Yeah.
I know it's a very cliche question, but like, what led you to being a referee in pro wrestling?
To be honest with you, that wasn't like a career path. I didn't choose and say, hey, you know what? I want to be a referee. I want to be a part of the business in some form or fashion. I loved it so much. And when I got introduced to Jack Tunney by Elio Zarlengo, is the one who got me actually introduced, got my foot in the door. And when I first started with Jack, Elio introduced me because I used to take pictures, and he thought maybe he could bring me along and be his assistant photographer taking pictures ringside. And I thought, oh, this is cool. I could go ringside and take some really good pictures, like for me, not for the program that he was thinking, But when he introduced me to Jack said, well, we don't need another photographer. We'll find something for the kid to do. And I was that guy that did whatever he asked me to do, like go over here and move this, help set up the ring. Here's the keys to my Cadillac. Go pick up Andre the Giant at the Marriott. And I'm like, sure, boss. And at the same time, I'm going, I'm going to pick up Andre. This is crazy, and stuff like that. But that's where it started. And then after about a year or so of doing that, Pat Patterson, who I got to know very well, really cool guy. He went to Jack and said, look, Jack, we got the kid over here. He's waiting for us to give him stuff to do. Why don't we use him during the show? We'll make him a referee. And Jack said, well, do you want to smarten the kid up? And Pat says to him, Jack, he's sitting in the locker room with the boys. He's kind of has an idea what's going on. Why don't we just use him? So Pat told me, get the black sneakers, black pants, blue shirt, black bow tie, carry it with you at all times. And I just sat back, waited for the call. And I got it one day in Newmarket, Ontario. Chief Jay Strongwell was the lead agent and says, hey, Jimmy Jam, you got your ref gear with you? I said, yes, Chief, I do. He says, put it on. You're reffing tonight. And I'm like, that's when it clicked.
Yeah.
Or I said to myself, okay, this is going to be really cool, or it's going to be a disaster because I have no idea what I'm doing. So he had me refereeing a match with SD Jones in the Red Demon, who was Jose Luis Rivera, who I knew very well. SD was a good friend. And I said, SD, I got some good news and some bad news for you. He says, oh, really? He says, what's the good news? I said, I'm reffing your match tonight. He said, awesome. He says, what's the bad news? I said, I'm reffing your match tonight. I don't have an idea what I'm doing. He says, just stick close to me. I'll talk you through it, which he did. And then afterwards, he sat me down and said, now here's what you got to do. You got to go to the other guys, the other referees, talk to them, ask them questions, have them watch your matches, let them know what you can do better and stuff like that. So, and then I learned from day one that I'm never going to stop learning. You're always going to learn something different in this business. So never think you know it all.
Yeah. Isn't that such like a unspoken route into wrestling? As like you were a photographer that took pictures, the Jim Cornette story, the Paul Heyman story, and then found your foot in the door, especially during that era. Like if you could take pictures or provide some value, they'd let you in, and then you slowly learned everything else. How quickly did you learn how pivotal the role of a referee was? Because when you went into it the first time, you might have not known all the stuff a referee's supposed to be doing to make the match work, the magic happen. When did you figure it out? Like, okay.
It took a little while because the hardest adjustment for me was the fact that referees, not only are they important in helping the guys tell their story, which I didn't clue in early on. It was just me. Let me get through this. Let me do what I'm supposed to do and hopefully do it right. Then as time went on, listening to the other guys, I started understanding, oh, there's much more to this than just going in there and playing referee. You have to be a conduit. You have to be the communication between everybody together. You have to be aware if anything, God forbid, goes wrong with some of the guys, if they get hurt or anything like that. And at the same time, not be a focal point. You have to be kind of invisible until you need to be visible. Yeah. And that was blending into the background until you come to the foreground and that sort of thing. So you don't really learn it till it's like wrestling. Yeah. You don't really get it until several years in. And that's when it's a light bulb that eventually goes off and you go, oh, okay, I've been doing it wrong this whole time. This is the way I'm supposed to be doing it. And when I got to TV, when I started doing TV, that's when the light bulb started going off, because now it's a whole new world. It's a new way of your refereeing. There's different things you have to pay attention to. You have to pay attention to the boys over here. But at the time, we didn't have the IFB, the earpiece. So, okay, we got to pay attention to the match. Now I got to pay attention to the timekeeper because he's giving me time cues and they have to hit their cues. And now I got to think, Okay, I got to pass these cues on to these guys without making it look like I'm walking over and going, okay, guys, 5 minutes, let's go.
And if Jack Lanza comes down the aisle waving his tie, you missed your time cues.
And guess what? You're going to catch a lot of heat in the back.
Yeah. And I think I know like these sounds like very cliche questions, but I do think a lot of fans don't realize how pivotal the role of a referee is. Like, they don't know how much you guys are actually part of telling that story, or like,
Yes.
especially back in the day, making sure everyone's on time. It's not just up to the wrestlers going out there and like knowing, hey, this has been 8 minutes. Like, they're just timing it in their head because they got so much other things to focus on in their match as well.
Right.
Like, as a kid, I didn't know. I thought a referee counted the 3, did the count outs, and like was there to like stop things from happening, to stop a DQ and stuff. But then as I got older, I'm like, oh, like they do a lot. Like, it's not easy being a referee. Like, this is, you know, like,
no, it isn't. Sorry, Donnie.
I was going to say quickly, Al Snow had a great line where he said, a great ref can make a good match great. A bad ref can make a good match bad.
Yeah.
Yep.
And nobody ever thinks about that. They always think about the work between the people that are competing. They don't realize, like, as a booker, when I have 2 inexperienced guys in there, or even just one inexperienced guy in there, the first thing I want is a veteran ref. I want a veteran ref that can lead those guys around. Because if I have a rookie ref and young talent in the ring, I know the match is going to suck.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jim, go ahead.
No, it's compounding on that point. My point earlier about being invisible until you need to be visible. One of the greatest compliments I ever got after a match, because I was always that guy that went to the back and said, "Hey, how was it? What did I do that could have been better?" You know, that's just the way I'm wired. You know what I mean? I don't look for the pat on the back. I look for the critique. Give me something, you know, that I can work with. And it was WrestleMania 24 after the Edge Undertaker match. I got to the back and I ran into one of my idols, Ricky Steamboat.
Yeah.
And the first thing he says to me, he goes, "Jimmy, how are you?" I said, "I'm good. I'm great." I'm like, I'm pumped. I'm hyped. You know what I mean? He says, "That boot looked fantastic. It looked like he took your head off." I said, "Oh, great." I said, "How was the rest of the match? How was it?" He says, "Oh, I'm sorry. I don't mean to tell you this, but I didn't even notice you. I'm sorry."
Yeah.
I said, "Well, great. Thank you." And and people, when I tell this story to other refs, they tell me, "But he didn't notice you. How could he critique your work?" I said, "That's my job."
Yeah.
If the match is flowing smoothly and people are enjoying the match and I'm not a distraction or a focal point, then I did my job correctly.
Yeah, and it is insane because if I think about the refs of, you know, the 80s and 90s, even the 2000s and stuff, like for us fans, like we knew a lot of the refs, we knew the names, we knew who they were, but like, you know, you'd forget who's reffing the match sometimes. Like, it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't like we were like, oh, like this match, I remember exactly who was reffing it. Like, and I think there's an art to that too, because how important you guys are, but also like you guys were always there, but you weren't always so visible. Donnie, did you ever ref in your tenure of doing everything?
Not on a show, in training.
Okay.
Yeah. Nobody wanted a 6'7" referee that made the wrestlers look stupid.
To be fair, we've never met in person, so I don't know how tall you are. So
that makes sense. Yeah, we met at Elimination Chamber.
Oh, we did. Yeah, you're tall. You did. Yeah.
No, so like that. I mean, I reffed in practice, but when you're reffing in practice, it's a completely different animal. You're doing 5% of the job. You're counting 3. You're breaking guys up. You're not communicating spots in the same way. It's practice. Guys are doing drills, right? It's not the same. What Jim did is the height. Like it's like comparing Michael Jordan to a guy that's shooting free throws at the YMCA. Like, it's completely
yeah. I just want to know if you ever did it and if you found it struggle kind of hard. And
it's very hard. My ass does not want to get. I don't want to get horizontal that many times in a 10-minute span. Forget it.
Yeah.
Like, once I go down, I'm like, I'm not getting back up.
Yeah. How was the cardio, Jimmy? Because that is true. There's a lot of movement happening there.
You know what? Back in my day, back then, I actually had pretty good cardio because I was setting up the ring as well. So I had to set up the ring, referee usually a couple of matches that night, and then tear down afterwards. And now the real cardio kicks in when you got to drive to the next town. because you got to stay awake for that. I had some bad habits that kept me awake: cigarettes, Pepsi, and Cheetos, cheese puffs.
Yeah, we do see some referees nowadays. And I'm not gonna throw any names out there or anything, but like that really do try to like make themselves part of the match, and it's been made fun of online, and you know people can they can gander and figure it out. But
I've never noticed,
and I've seen you spoken about it too. And as a fan, like we see it too, where we're like the referee's a little bit too theatric, and I understand reacting to the stuff that you're seeing, but like if you're doing it throughout the entire match, it does sometimes distract you from the match you're watching. Have you noticed that quite a bit? And what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know what you're talking about. No, I'm kidding. I do notice sometimes that some referees, like you said, are overly dramatic. I mean, I get it. It's a visual business. You want to react, but a referee's reaction should be subtle. You get more out of it. Like you're in the ring constantly, and you see people get hit in every match. When you react to everything, that means nothing means anything.
Yeah.
If you see one of the 52 super kicks that you're going to see in the night, and you're throwing your hands up and you're, oh my God, that means the one that actually registers means absolutely nothing. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? So if you're acting like, oh no, oh my God, I can't believe I'm seeing this, and you're selling your body parts like you're the one having the offense done to you, when somebody's dropping a knee on someone's shoulder and you're grabbing your shoulder, you take a punch and you're holding your own chin and you're going, oh my God, you didn't get hit. Stop selling like you're the one taking the punishment. You know what that means? That is a conscious effort of them saying, hey, look at me over here. I need to get noticed, even though they're the one getting their asses beat. That's not what you do. Let me ask you this. Who sees more up close punishment more than UFC or mixed martial arts fighting referees?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen one of them, when you see a vicious knockout or something like that, have you ever seen one of them go, oh my God, oh, no. Yeah. What you see is they go like this. You may see a little subtle reaction where they go, ooh. And then they jump in and do their job.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah, it's changed. So it's some of the referees got a little bit of a main character syndrome.
Well, if you go back and you look at a guy like Tommy Young, Tommy Young was a little animated, but it wasn't it didn't look contrived. It didn't look like he was acting. That just seemed natural for Tommy.
Yeah,
that makes
and it fit the situation when like an Earl Hebner would get in a shoving match with the talents because he was trying to stop something from happening. It wasn't
right.
He was just doing it because he was trying to be part of the match. It was based off of circumstance.
99 times out of 100, if Earl is shoving someone, it's because they told him shove me back.
Yeah. Yeah,
and that's a host show spot, by the way. Anyways, it's a little more loose on the host shows. That's my fault.
What's up, everybody? This is RV here from Rain City Toys. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Wrestling Classic. Check out the TWC show that Justin and I do weekly. Also subscribe to Just Yappin'. Justin and I talk about wrestling and everything else that we feel like talking about. If you guys are looking for figures, hit me up. Got some old school legends right here like Rick Martel. Find some of the newer guys like CM Punk. Got some Stone Cold Steve Austin. Anything you're looking for, just hit me up. Follow me on Instagram, Rain City Toys. Hit me up on TikTok, Rain City Toys. Kind of falling behind Justin here on some followers, so let's get those subscriber count up. Subscribe, like, comment, and share. And you guys go back to the show, and hope you guys enjoy.
Yeah. What's your favorite house show story? Do you have a house show story that you can share with us?
Oh, I'll try to keep this one short, but my favorite, there's two of them. Well, there's two of them. There's two of them. One is the wrench and one is the napkin.
The wrench.
Okay.
The wrench story.
I'm intrigued by both. They're so opposite. One is hard, one is soft. I don't know.
Yes. I'll do the napkin one first because that came first. It was years ago. Okay. It was a tag match, Edge and Christian versus Jeff Jarrett and Owen Hart. And this was in Germany. I believe it was Oberhausen, Germany. And they were getting heat on Edge. And as heels, obviously, they were hiding behind my back, using a foreign option. But Owen was doing stuff like going up to the bottom rope and splashing Edge's ankles and telling me to count while he's covering his ankles. I mean, it was just complete ha-ha. So, but throughout the match, they were hiding this object on me. And I didn't know. This was called on the fly. This wasn't something that was talked about in the back. And so, you know, we get to the point in the match where I finally catch Owen. He's got it tucked under his arm, and I count to do the 5 count to get him to raise his arms to reveal the object. I get to 4. He lifts his arm, and a red napkin floats down.
Yeah.
And I'm doing everything I can to keep composure and not just laugh my ass off. And I finally just pick it up and I go, were you using this? And I'm going back and forth between him and Jared. But the classic one was Eddie Guerrero and Chavo Guerrero during the Light Sheet and Steel days in a match versus Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas. One of the nuts on the ring post in the corner where Eddie was standing, where was their corner, the Guerrero's corner, was coming loose. So Tony Chimmel decided to finally do something and get off his chair and take the wrench that he used to use to ring the bell at the house show and tighten the bolt. And as he's tightening it, this is going on behind my back. I have no idea this is going on.
Yeah.
Eddie says, Chimmel, give me the wrench. And Chimmel's like, what? He says, give me the wrench, you fat whatever. You know? So he takes the wrench and he calls Chavo. He says, hey, Chavo, bring Shelton over here. And he says, well, okay, he brings him into the corner. He says, take the ref. So that's my cue to be distracted and push Chavo back out of the corner. And Eddie starts using the wrench and they start passing it back and forth behind my back where I don't see it. And Charlie is, you know, feeding in properly to distract me at times when they want to pass it back and forth. And I would check the other guy. You know, long story short, finally, I feel this thing behind me. And somebody slips something in the back of my pants and they said, don't sell it. So I act like I don't know it's there. All of a sudden, Charlie comes bolting into the ring and he pulls the wrench out from behind my back. And I start giving him crap for having a wrench and I'm threatening to disqualify him and all this stuff. And believe it or not, the place is going nuts.
Yeah.
Over this stuff. And this, again, was not control. You couldn't have mapped this out in the back and have it work. The fact that it was all on the fly and all the reactions were genuine and natural, that's what made this work. And to this day, when we were talking to Chavo, the first thing we brought up, hey, I went to say something. He says, I know what you're going to say. I was what? Oh, no. And Shelton, too.
Yeah.
He said, what? The wrench. They all remember the wrench.
Yeah.
I remember the look. I remember the look on Shelton's face when you mentioned it to him. In front of Bobby and MVP because they'd never heard that story.
Right.
And then Shelton is like, he's popping. And I think Shelton was the one that retold the story to the boys. And everyone's just dying. Like, how did we miss this? What loop were we on?
That's honestly, sometimes I do really miss like house shows and going to house shows because that's when you can tell everyone was just kind of having fun and doing crazy stuff. And both companies don't do them that much anymore. I mean, WWE still does when they go overseas, but not so much over here. And it kind of sucks because that was when you get the wrestlers to interact with you the most. They're free to do whatever. It was always a good time. Just as crazy. You worked through the Golden Era, the Ruthless Aggression Era, the Attitude Era. You worked with all these guys. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask because you brought him up. How was it working with Owen? Because obviously you were in the ring when the tragedy struck. Which is obviously something you'll never forget. What do you think about when you think about Owen Hart?
Not just a great wrestler. Everybody knows how good he was in the ring. The great human being. You couldn't find a better human being. And I've said this before, and I'll continue to say this until my time comes, is I only wish that I could be half the person he is or was in my life. He was that guy. There is no one on this planet that has a negative thing to say about Owen.
Yeah.
He lit up the locker room, man. He walked in the locker room and he just made you laugh. He kept everybody centered. You know, and we talked earlier about ribs from the Undertaker. If you got ribbed by Owen, that was like a badge of honor.
I was about to say the amount of people I've interviewed that have given me an Owen Hart rib story, from like Ken Shamrock to D'Lo Brown to They're like, I'm like, oh, give me a good story, and it always comes to, well, Owen did this to me this one time. It's like,
Yeah.
he was just like a good vibe in that locker room. And then also like being the younger brother, I love Brett, but being a younger brother myself with an older brother, I was rooting for Owen. I got it.
Given the time, in my opinion, given the time, it just didn't turn out for him. He was just as good as Brett technically in the ring, but had tons more charisma.
Yeah.
And this
I
isn't
also
a
think
shot at Brett. I don't mean this as a shot at Brett.
No,
but
yeah,
just, you know.
I think Brett
No,
would.
like, yeah, I think so too. I think Brett would say that too. In terms of like speaking and the confidence to like go cut a promo and stuff, like Owen was ready always. Where Brett's admittedly said like, I struggled with that first. It wasn't my favorite thing to do. And it's also one of those situations too where I think you can say it about Owen, you can say it about Pillman. Like, if they just had a little bit more time, they might have actually reached that level of being a world champion. It's just time got them too soon, you know.
Justin, I'll tell you really quick Owen Hart story.
Yeah,
I did an interview with Owen back in 1996.
I think you told me this story, but go ahead. I think you told me in my live stream, but I'm here for it. Yeah.
So he was super cool, and he really enjoyed the interview. And he was the first WWE wrestler I ever met that didn't forget my name when I saw them a second time.
Yeah.
And the second time I saw him was probably 7-8 months later, right? They came back to town for a house show loop or something like that. And he sees me, like this is in the bowels of the Sky Dome where they used to do media. And it's a house show, and I'm sitting there, and the PR people, they brought me someone for an interview, and everyone's like, oh, you're doing interviews here? Yeah. Who'd they bring you? And I'm like, oh, they brought me so-and-so. That's it. So he leaves and he starts bringing me guests. Like he's my PR guy. You know? And like all of a sudden Ken Shamrock's walking in and he's like, the fuck am I doing here? And no one's like, don't worry, he's the guy. Just sit down. Like
That's awesome.
He was so cool. Like he was so awesome and such a sweet guy. But yeah, he was one of one, man.
Two more questions. I know we said we wouldn't keep this long. One for both of you, and then one for you, Jimmy. Really quickly for both of you, with 3 Canadians sitting here, we're just shooting the shit. You guys tell me, because you guys are on that other coast. You guys are on the East Coast. What is the level of healthiness on the independent scene out there in Toronto?
Oh, there's a lot of independent promotions out here in this, especially in this area. I mean, Donnie could speak to this better than I could because he helps out with one of the premier promotions here in not only Ontario but in Canada, Super Kicked, who do a wonderful job with their shows. I've been a couple of times. I wish I can go more, but between them and what's that?
I said, but we can't afford you.
No, I give you the friends and family rate. Come on, man. No, plus, I also want to stay married with all the wrestling I deal with on a weekly basis. So, there's a reason why I'm home now. There's a reason why I'm home, contrary to popular opinion. But I think it is thriving. I mean, I know at Superkick they do great houses. I know Smash does the good houses. Greektown Wrestling. This is all just in Toronto area.
Yeah.
And there's others like Destiny. There's a lot out there, and there seems to be a market for it here, especially with the price of wrestling tickets being as high as they are. I think people are looking for an alternative to get their wrestling fix and be entertained, and it's a fun day out or evening out.
Yeah,
I think the independent scene is really healthy. In Ontario, which is obviously my stomping ground, I always harken back, Justin, to when I first broke into the independent scene back in the late 90s. And in those days, I remember working on international championship wrestling shows and all Canadian wrestling shows, which was really the same company. And we were broadcasting coast to coast on the Aboriginal network. And if we did a show with less than 1,500 people, the promoter was losing his mind. Like, we're done. We're out of business. We're finished. Yeah. And like these days, it feels like there's a lot of indie companies where they get 100 people. Like, wow, that was a great night. And I'm like, really? You're 10% full. If you're doing 100 people and you're doing it in your basement that holds 50, great. You did a good show.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of apathy right now in terms of what success looks like. And I think part of the reason for that is on the independent scene, not just in Ontario, not just in Canada, but across the world, I think there's a shortage of vets. I think there's a shortage of people that remember what good looks like. And I think everyone that's really good has either left or is working on TV. And I think people are forgetting what good looks like. And so I challenge people to strive for more, strive for better. It's not just about frequency of shows. It's not just about the names you pull in. It's about pushing yourself. If you've been doing shows for the last 2 years and every show draws 300 people, it's time for a bigger venue, and it's time to up your promotional game. And it's time to not rely on social media just to market your show. Like, get out there and post to the community and do some outreach and do all that kind of stuff, because there's way too much apathy, I think, in terms of like, oh, this was a good show. Well, if that's what you're striving for, then you're not striving for much.
There needs to be a good mix of the old school style and a little bit of the new school style, because there might be a little bit too much relying on social media reaction, bringing in a big name to get the buzz.
When it comes to promotion, it's brutal. I talk to promoters all the time, and they're like, I don't know what happened. We only had like 20 people show up. I'm like, did you promote it? Yeah, I put it on Facebook.
Yeah.
That's it.
And then I do think there's a lot more people, especially now, probably more so than 15, 20 years ago, that want to break into wrestling and be wrestlers now. I think it's higher probably now than ever. And at that point too, like,
you know why that is? Because the barrier to entry is non-existent.
Yeah, that's true. And then I also think because of that, a lot of the younger wrestlers don't really know what it means to be a wrestler. They just want to do the moves and get the spots in and do the stuff they see on TV. And I always tell people all the time, I'm like, the indies is when you get to make a fool of yourself. Try to cut promos, suck at it, get better. Try to do like different styles of wrestling matches. You don't need a big spot in front of 100 people, but there's a lot of, just from my experience dealing with younger wrestlers, talking to being indie shows, they just want to get their shit in. They want to do the cool moves, and it's just a different style.
That's why there's someone out here that's local, and Donnie loves this. I love him too, because his name is Psycho Mike.
Yeah, I know. I've heard of him. Yeah.
You know what his finishing move is?
No, what is it?
A body slam.
Okay.
He's got the body slam. Yeah. He's got the body slam over to the point where people are chanting for it.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It just goes to show you how you can program your audience to buy in and believe. Simple.
Yeah. And I'm a big on the talking thing. I'm like, if you can, like, I always talk about, like, think about like the old territorial system, right? Back in the day, all these wrestlers worked on the territories. When Vince started his crusade and started bringing everybody in, everybody kind of already knew who they were and how to talk, because they were doing it for years. So it's interesting.
I mean, that's a huge thing, right? Like, it feels like every single day you hear about a new wrestling school that opens. Yeah. But you know what you don't hear about? You don't hear about any of these wrestling schools that are teaching guys how to cut promos. And do you know why that is? Because most guys don't know how to teach it. Yeah. I had a conversation with a friend. I'm not going to reveal his name, but I had a conversation with a friend who works for WWE, and he's at the PC all the time. And I asked him, because I teach promo classes. So I said, what is your promo class curriculum? And he said, curriculum. We tell them to go cut a promo. We'll say, sell me this pencil. And then they do it. We'll say, cut a promo on the fact that the weather outside sucks and you wanted to go to the beach today. Okay, sure. That's decent improving stuff, but it's not a promo. It's not a wrestling promo. It's not teaching you the ins and outs of a promo. And Dusty Rhodes was wonderful when he used to talk about a match as a promo's a match, which is a great high level thinking way to structure. But now you need the nuts and bolts, and you need to understand the difference between an in-ring promo when you're a huge star and an in-ring promo when you're an indie guy. You need to understand the difference between cutting a promo in-ring for 45 seconds and doing a backstage vignette. You need to know the difference between standing by yourself or with your tag team partner or with your manager, or you have like a Renee Paquette standing next to you with a microphone going back and forth, right? You have a stick man. It's a completely different dynamic. People don't understand these things. And I've been fortunate throughout my time in the wrestling business to pick the brains of some very smart people, one of them being the brain, Bob Heenan, and many, many others. And I've amassed all this stuff, and I've sort of vetted it against people today that are still around and kicking and go, does this make sense to you? Yeah, that's good stuff. So as far as I know, I have the only fully fledged curriculum from start to finish that teaches professional wrestlers how to improve their promos.
Yeah.
And, it's a program that I'm looking to roll out to more schools. But also if people are interested in coaching, I do online services as well.
Yeah. I just think it's very important. I love a good wrestling match as much as the next person, but I'm a character promo guy. That's what got me hooked in wrestling. And I also think if the promo and the characters and you're invested in that stuff, you'll be more invested in the match. And I just think, that's the problem with the indies, and sometimes with AEW a little bit too, is like they're just relying on the fact that we'll give you good wrestling matches, but I have to care. Otherwise, I don't need to watch it live. I can watch it later. You want people to be invested in this stuff, and I just think that's something I've noticed with a lot of independent wrestlers. They just don't know how to talk. They don't want to talk. Oh, I don't need to talk. You don't have to be good at first. Nobody's good at first. Just start learning how to talk.
The problem I see a lot with independent wrestlers is when they cut a promo, they're playing wrestler. They're not being wrestler. There's a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. On that note about being a wrestler and fully being the person you are, the last question I want to ask you, Jimmy, because he's one of my all-time, he probably is my all-time favorite wrestler of all time, and I never got the privilege to meet him. So I'm going to ask you, do you have any specific or funny or interesting Macho Man Randy Savage stories?
Does
he? Do I? Oh my goodness.
That is my guy. I asked anybody I can about a story about him because I interviewed Sting, and Sting did not want to do the interview at all. God bless us all. He was great though. He was all about it. But the one time I made him smile and just kind of cracked a smile was when I brought up the Macho Man.
Oh, okay. Which one? All right. Let's start with this one because it happened in Canada. Oh well, both of them. These
I was hoping you were going to say this one.
Okay. We were spot show, Guelph, Ontario. And Randy and Liz always got their own room. They dress together. Fine. Yeah. No problem, which is cool because they don't need a big locker room. But in this case, they didn't have smaller locker rooms like a referee's locker room or something like that in the arena. So they had their own regular sized big locker room. So I'm just walking by the hall, and I'm walking right by the room. And all of a sudden, Randy's like, "Hey, Jimmy, you got a minute?" That's my bad Randy Savage.
Jimmy?
Says, yeah, Randy. "Ooh, Jimmy, you got a minute?" "What?" "Yeah, sure, Randy. What's up?" He says, "Come inside." And I'm like, "Come inside." And everybody knows how protective he is of Liz. And I'm thinking, okay, I'll come inside here. He says, "All right, I got to go somewhere for a few minutes. You sit here and just guard the door and make sure nobody comes in."
Yeah. And
I'm like, okay. So he leaves. I'm sitting right by the door, and Liz is on the far end of the locker room, and she's always, "Hi, Jimmy, how are you?" "I'm fine, Liz. How are you doing?" And stuff like that. And just little small talk. Then all of a sudden, not 5 minutes later, the door bursts open, and Randy's like, comes in. He's like he's trying to catch me in the act. And I'm like, and all of a sudden, "All right, Jimmy, thank you very much." And I said, "No problem." And I got out of the window. I'm like, what did he think I was going to do? Like, what do you think? I was going to, take my shot at Liz? Come on, dude. Whatever.
Yeah.
But he was very protective. It was nuts. Yeah. But I have to give him credit, though. He did get me out of a speeding ticket one time.
That's a good one.
I had to go pick him up at the airport here in Toronto and bring him down to the gardens, and traffic was a nightmare. So, and I had Jack Tunney's Cadillac. A big blue Fleetwood Cadillac. So, "Jimmy, are we running?" I said, "Yeah, we're running a little late. Hold on, give me a minute." So I start driving a little faster. I find a spot. I'm like humming, and all of a sudden I get pulled over. I'm like, oh, here we go. So the cop comes over, goes through the whole rigmarole, and he's asking me whose car this is because the license plate has yen nut on it, which is tunny spelled backwards. Trying to figure that out. I said, it's my boss's car. I had to go pick up some wrestlers at the airport, bring me down Maple Leaf Gardens. He says, and finally he finds out who's in the car. He says, oh, Macho Man, really? Is he in the car? He says, yeah, officer, can we hurry this up a little bit, please? Because we're going to be late and all this stuff. He says, can I trouble you for an autograph? He says, tell you what, I'll give you a signed 8x10 if you let the kid go. Yeah. He says, all right. He says he hands him, so he signs it up. He hands it to the cop, and the cop says, okay, follow me. He gave us a police escort right to the garden. I'm awesome. Like, okay, this is cool. Yeah. And I was like, thank you so much, Randy. Thank you.
That's great. That's great. I know there's so many stories. Yeah.
I'll give you a quick 30-second one. My own Randy Savage story, which doesn't touch those ones, but it's still hilarious. And you, as a person who does interviews, will appreciate it. I was in Buffalo for WCW Nitro. It was their Legends night when they had a whole bunch of old timers come out. So one of them was Angelo Poffo, Randy's dad. And I was there doing interviews. I'm walking around backstage. They were very loosey-goosey with who was backstage at that point. I had just done a good interview with Sting. I had just done a good interview with DDP. I did a few other ones. And then there's Mach. And I'm like, oh my God, there's my white whale, right?
Yeah.
So PR guy comes up to me and goes, you want to talk to Mach? I'm like, I would love to talk to Mach, right? And he goes, okay, but just so you know, he's in a hurry. He's only got about 5 or 6 minutes. So whatever it is you want to ask, just go to it. I'm like, that's not how I interview. Like, I want to build a rapport. I want to get over with the guy and then hit with the hard stuff. He's like, you got no time for that. Just go right into whatever the soundbite is that you want. Ask that, because otherwise he's going to run out of time.
That's the worst situation. I hate that. People going, yeah,
worse.
Sometimes, and I appreciate. I'm grateful for the opportunities. But I'm like, you're telling me to go up there and I have a minute. Okay.
Right. So when he initially said 4 minutes, it turned into like, you have a minute,
Yeah.
So at the time, just to set the stage, what is going on TV is the WCW New Blood with Vince Russo versus the old guys. Right. Yeah. You remember that angle?
I do remember it.
I said, Macho Man Randy Savage, thank you so much for joining us. You're an absolute legend in this business, but it sounds like some people, like potentially Vince Russo, seem to think that your day has come and it's time legitimately for the previous generation of stars to maybe move aside and make room for these younger guys. Now, forget about the storyline for a second. Do you resent the fact that you're kind of being pushed to the side and being asked to make room for these guys that haven't yet paid their dues? Well, it's a question. I'm thinking. This interview's over. Dig it. Yeah. And he leaves.
And then he went on TV and cut that promo and was never seen again.
So then he went to the Marriott and got very drunk.
Yeah. Probably stressed him out. That's
oh my God.
That's
the
awesome.
whole locker room popped. The whole locker room popped. But I'm like, holy shit, did I feel like a jabroni? But I aired it. You goddamn right, I aired it. I teased it too. I built it up. Coming up this week on the show, our exclusive interview with Macho Man Randy Savage. You don't want. Oh yeah, I built it up like it was an hour long down.
It happens. Sometimes you only get a minute, 2 minutes, or someone took too long. So like, hey, your time's cut, and you're like, all right, it's not going to be that great, but I'll do what I can. And you make the best out of it, and you get some content out of it.
But you know what, Justin?
You always wish to have a better conversation with somebody.
Of the couple thousand interviews I've done in my career, that's the one I remember.
Yeah. But that's like, once again, the wrestlers back in the day, they felt larger than life and they felt like stars, and I think that plays a big part of it too. I still get more nervous when I have to sit down with a Stone Cold or a Sting than I do with some of the current. Maybe because I feel like I'm the same age as a lot of them are older now. But like it's a different feeling.
Hey yo, it's your boy, the Wrestling Classic, Justin here, and I'm here to tell you guys about one of wrestling's best kept secrets for merchandise, officially licensed WWE and NXT merchandise, 500level.com. Check them out, 500level.com. Get officially licensed merchandise for the WWE, NXT, UFC, MLB, NBA, NHL. They got it all. If you join the Partnership Point program as a loyal customer, you will get discounts down the road. You can find merchandise for some of your favorite NXT stars that you can't find anywhere else. Javon Evans, Kalani Jordan, Carmen Petrovic, Lola Vice, Trick Williams. They got merchandise for everybody on NXT. You got OG shirts like this NWO shirt. You got big stars like the Queen Charlotte Flair. You get new designs like this new design for Lita. You get designs I helped out with, like this design for Dakota Kai, which I was a part of creating when Dakota didn't have those many shirts going on. You can get, like I said, NXT superstars like Carmen Petrovic and many others. You can get OGs like the none other than the Hot Rod, Roddy Piper. You can get CM Punk, Jey Uso, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, anybody you want. Sami Zayn's 500level.com. Check them out. You can even get the bad guy, Razor Ramon. You get your OG, like I said, logo shirts, NWO, WWF, Survivor Series, Raw's War. 500level.com. Check them out. Join the partnership program. Some of the best quality shirts, premium quality, regular quality. Some of the best product you will find out there, officially licensed WWE, NXT merchandise, and OG Legend stuff. 500level.com. Check them out. Keep doing the thing. We'll see you all later. Ooh.
Thank you both so much for doing this. I can continue talking to you guys for a little bit longer, but I know we agreed to a certain time for today. I would love to have you guys back on. If you guys ever want me to come on the Huge Pop side of things, I'm more than happy to.
Let's do it.
I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
And everything is just tons to talk about. I thought we'd talk about a little bit of some AEW. I know that's always fun for everybody to hear Jimmy talk about.
No, that's
AEW.
fun. That's fun. We can touch on that very briefly. They need to address
why do you feel like the AEW fan base feels like you're against them? Because you were just giving your knowledge and opinion on things.
Because that's the culture that's been cultivated by certain wrestling media, and Tony Khan has dived into that same mindset that, oh, if you're criticizing us, that means you hate us and you want us to go away. No, we don't. Anybody with half a brain cell in their head does not want to see AEW go away. As a matter of fact, we want the exact opposite, which is the reason why we are posting this critiques, hopefully helping them out. If we're wrong, we're wrong. If we're right, maybe it'll help. At least listen to it and give it some credence before you dismiss it as plain hate. That is the problem here. They have been told that anybody that has anything remotely negative to say about this organization absolutely hates us. And that is the furthest thing from the truth, because for all the issues that they have going on from a presentation standpoint, God bless Tony Khan for starting a company that gives people and the boys and the ladies a place to work and make a good living doing it. That being said, Tony Khan is nothing more than a fan with billions of dollars. So that's what billionaires do, is they hire people and put them in places to run the company for them. That is what he needs. He needs a wrestling mind there, someone who's been in the business and knows how to book, knows how to put matches together, knows how to put stories together. And he refuses to do that because of his ego or whatever the heck it is, and thinks he can do it better than anybody because he's been a fan since he's 12 years old. I've been a fan of the Maple Leafs since I was 5 years old. There is no way on God's green earth that I believe that I could coach them to a Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
Do I think I know my hockey? I think I know enough to have a discussion about hockey, but I do not claim to be an expert on hockey. I do not claim to know how the inner workings of how to put a game plan together in hockey work.
But wrestling is the only business in the world where the fan base believes that they understand it as well or better than the people that do it. And it blows my mind. And part of the reason they think that is because they think they have so much access, so much transparency that they understand everything about it. So if you're providing feedback that they don't agree with, you're a hater. And that mindset is relatively new. I think it's like the last generation or two that has switched. Justin, one of the things I do aside from all this wrestling stuff is I've been a basketball coach for very, very, very many years. And I had a player once on a really good travel team, and he was like getting really hot. And he goes, "Coach, why are you always on me, man? Why are you hating me, coach? Why are you always on my ass? Like, why can't you just respect what I'm doing well, coach? Why you?" And I looked at him and I said, if I stopped giving you feedback, it means I stopped caring. It means I'm not even watching you. It means I don't even think you're capable of getting better.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with AEW. When you get clowns like Dax Harwood and Ricochet that come out and think that we hate watch AEW just to have something to bitch about, these guys are out of their minds. We're watching because we are fans of the business and we love the business. And if we see something that doesn't make sense, we call it out. We do the same thing with WWE. We do the same thing with everything else. But if we critique something in WWE, no one goes, "Oh, you're a WWE hater." Jimmy gives more love on a weekly basis to AEW than I do on a yearly basis. Because I'm at the point where I'm almost like, you know what, kid, I'm going to stop critiquing the way you shoot those layups. You're just sitting on the bench. I'm almost at that point with AEW because they don't want the feedback. They don't appreciate the feedback, and they're not learning from their mistakes. I haven't given up love yet, but I'm at the breaking point. Jimmy's not. Jimmy still has love, you know, and for him to catch all the flack from people that just don't get it is mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, and it's coming from someone that has a plethora of years in the industry. It's not even coming from a fan. And I feel like they take that harder for some reason because, like, obviously the internet, I've been obviously the wrestling since 2014. I feel like anytime the internet learns a word, they run with it. Like, I remember when everybody first learned the word clout, and that became like the thing to dog from clout. Now it's grifter. They took it from politics. Now you're a grifter if you just don't enjoy the product fully for what it is.
Well, you know what? I don't have a blue check mark on my Twitter account. So what am I grifting? I'm doing it wrong, I guess. I'm still waiting for my gift basket from TKO. The check's still in the mail. I don't know what the heck is going on here. You know, that I'm not doing this show thing right, am I?
Yeah.
Here's the other thing. We had this discussion. We're going to, if Donnie doesn't mind, I'm going to give you a little sneak preview on partly of what we discussed on Huge Pop this week, what we're going to discuss. The promo between Cody Rhodes and Sami Zayn on Friday Night SmackDown. I mean, I've been hearing comments and people saying, I can't believe Cody Rhodes spoke to Sami Zayn that way. I can't believe. I heard even one comment where someone said, Cody Rhodes gaslit Sami Zayn. And I'm thinking,
words,
gaslit? And what Donnie was talking about in his coaching, I never played basketball to the level where Donnie did, but I played high school sports. That was a long time ago, trust me. And I played basketball, I played soccer, and I played volleyball. Maybe not football, but it is what it is. Those are the sports I played. And when our coach got hot at you, he got hot at you. And you took it. And guess what? When he said, sit on the bench, you're going to sit on. You sat on the bench. I didn't go home crying to mom and have my parents come into school and say, well, his coach was very mean to him.
Yeah.
That's the generation we live in right now.
I was about to say, I think you're talking about a society problem now.
No, but that feeds into exactly what's happening. Can you imagine if this type of attitude were around during the Monday Night Wars?
Yeah.
Can I tell you something? The Monday Night Wars, WWE did not hate WCW. At least the boys didn't.
The boys didn't.
The boys didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. The Office, they had their issues, right? But the boys didn't. They were loving every freaking minute of it.
And the guys in WCW were backstage watching Raw.
And vice versa. And vice versa. Do you think they weren't watching Nitro in the truck on Monday nights?
Yeah.
Do you think the bunch of the boys couldn't find a TV somewhere in the building where they could keep an eye on what's going on? That's the way it was. And the fans, even back then, were not like this. They were loving every minute of it.
Yeah, back then, the only real hate that I know of, and I know this from when I interviewed Vince McMahon, he said he really felt WCW was not trying to be an alternative program. They were trying to put him out of business. And he's like, so now this family-owned business, he likes to make it sound like he's, you know, the
Yeah,
convenience
yeah.
store down the street. This little,
Woe
This
is
little-
me.
yeah, this little
The small
independent,
operation that we're running here.
yeah, this little independent ramen shop is going up against a $1 billion greedy
Virginia or
conglomerate.
something. Yeah.
And at the time, right, with no guaranteed contracts and everything else, WCW comes in and starts swooping up all their top stars, and Vince is legitimately hot. But he did that to everyone in the 80s.
Yeah.
He did that to
Yeah.
everyone. So
I know.
guess
People
what?
don't ever point that part out. Everyone just hears that WWE narrative and it's like he did the same
He
thing.
literally killed the territories.
He ended the territory.
He ended it.
He did. Well,
so-
this is probably the biggest difference too, though, is, and you tell me, Jimmy, because you've worked with him for a number of years, and obviously it's a different time with social media and stuff too. Vince didn't live on the internet. He wasn't reading every dirt sheet. He didn't read every Observer
Yeah,
video.
Howard-
Like
He didn't.
Howard Finkel was a reader. Like that's the story. Is that Howard Finkel would read it, and if there was anything to
Re-
report, he would report it.
Back to him, and then if Vince wanted something to get to Dave, he would say, "Howard, tell him this,"
Yeah.
and a
Well,
lot
I
of
think-
times beat him crap.
And I think, and I'm not even just AEW. I think in both companies they are watching social media. They're seeing instant reactions right away all the time now, and it's kind of changing things a bit. It's giving the fan input a lot more power that it probably should.
More so with one company than another, but
Yeah.
they do have a say. They do keep an eye on things, but I will say they don't dictate specifically a lot of the stuff. But
Because I do think one company more than the other. Because WWE
Yeah.
is more than happy to piss people off if they need to.
Of course.
Whatever. But like the other side is very catered towards like the fans. Sometimes it feels like if something gets a good reaction on Twitter, then you're gonna see more of that. I feel like that's a weird,
that's the
way of
sorry
going about
sorry to
this.
cut you off. That's the other issue they have is they're catering to a vocal minority.
Yeah.
I don't want to even get into it, but all the chants that they're doing recently that are causing controversy and stuff like that. My only issue with it, you can chant whatever you want. You're a fan, you paid your money, chant what you like. Me, I'm looking at it from a business standpoint, is Brody King is not over. That chant is over every time he comes to the ring. And it should be the other way around. That's at least the way I'm reading the room.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
All about perspective, right? Let's end on a lighter note before we wrap up.
Yeah.
Now. Jimmy, who
I'm
was
always
your favorite
happy.
wrestler? Who was your favorite wrestler growing up?
Mine?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I was a big Ricky Steamboat guy as I got older.
Yeah.
Him
Did
and
you
Jay
have a
Youngblood.
wrestler
I thought the tag
I was gonna
team.
say, did you ever wrestle you loved growing up and then you finally got to meet them when you got into the business?
Yes, Andre.
Okay. How was that first experience with Andre?
That was incredible. He was. I was fortunate enough. I guess my timidness. He treated me kindly because of it. I was very withdrawn when I met him the first time. I didn't know what to call him. Do I call him Andre? Do I call him Boss? Do I call him Mr. Giant? I didn't know because all his friends called him
Mr.
Boss.
Giant. Yeah.
So I didn't know. So I called him Sir.
Yeah.
And
that's
the
awesome.
first time he said it, and he said, "Oh, it's not Sir, it's Boss. You call me Boss."
He said it. He said it clear for you. And the last thing I want to ask you then, because it is the season, it is WrestleMania season. Do you have a favorite WrestleMania match or moment that you were part of, like as a referee? Is there one that stands out to you the most? I know you talked about WrestleMania 24, so let's exclude that one.
Exclude that one.
Exclude that one. Any other WrestleMania match or moment that you're like, that was one of my favorite WrestleMania matches or moments?
Man, there was a couple of them. I mean, the couple I did at WrestleMania 17, the hardcore match with Raven, Big Show, and Kane was fun. Oh boy. Actually, there was one. As much as it hurt, it was a favorite of mine. And Donnie and I talked about this from Elimination Chamber. I did an Elimination Chamber match back when there was actually pinfalls allowed on the steel grate, and it was steel. It wasn't that covered surface now.
Yeah.
But I can't remember all 6 participants in it, but it ended with with Undertaker and Batista. There was a WrestleMania 21 match with Eddie and Rey Mysterio, which And I'll never forget Kurt Angle and Rey Mysterio that opened up SummerSlam.
That was great.
2002.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
a
fun.
great SummerSlam. Yeah.
Believe it or not, that was a cardio test for me too.
Yeah, they went right into it. Ray jumped on him off the ropes right off the bat.
Yeah.
It was a great match. Thank you guys so much once again. We can run this back. Like I said, I know we can probably continue going, but I appreciate it. And yeah, we'll stay in touch. This was fun. And I appreciate you guys coming on the show, and we'll talk soon.
You got it, my friend.
Later. Have a good one. Make sure you guys follow Huge Pop. Listen, check out them on wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out their website, hugepopradio.com. Listen to them. They got great guests every week, great conversations like this. You know, you got two different perspectives on wrestling. Someone that's been grinding on the independents and coaching and teaching. Someone who's been a referee since 1987 with the WWF, and just plethora of stories and memories with all your favorite wrestlers. And that's the cool thing about them getting guests too, is that, you know, they have relationships with them. You don't have to break that ice in a minute. Sometimes the ice is already broken and you can just get into it. So guys, make sure you guys check out Huge Pop Radio. Keep doing the thing, and we'll see you guys all next time. Sweet. Thank you.
Time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.